What's happening, everyone? Welcome to another episode of That Great Podcast. Today we have my cousin, Jake Michels. He is a commercial real estate broker with Burger Real Estate, and we're going to try and pick his brain, get a feel for the market, and see what he does on a daily basis to make sure that he's doing the best he possibly can and be great. So, Jake, thank you so much for being on here today, man. It's great to have you here. Thanks. You came down from Fort Lauderdale, so you drove down a little bit. That's where you guys operate out of, correct?
Yeah, downtown.
Yeah, and you specialize in the Fort Lauderdale area. Mm-hmm. So, tell me a little bit about kind of what led you into that field. I know you've been doing it a while, but kind of walk me through.
Sure. So, it's a long story, but we can make it short.
Time. We got a little time.
Kind of how I got into just like real estate at all was in property management.
Okay.
So, really long story short, someone offered me a job in property management, and I was working for the company already, and they said, we're looking to expand our property management team. I had some relevant skills and experience apparently. And after I Googled what property management was, I said, sure, let's do it. And that started about a 12-year period of doing property management for multifamily real estate.
Nice.
So from there, my career progressed, and taking on different roles and responsibility. And as you know, I ended up finding my biological father and my biological family in 2019, and then that really shifted life for me a little bit, and things like that. It puts things in perspective, and so. Sort of that question of like, well, what do I really want to be doing, and where do I want to be doing it? Yeah, really came into focus. So all that way down to moving down to Fort Lauderdale in 2020, COVID was a good excuse to
come down,
get out of the cold,
sunshine.
Yeah. So
killed it.
Exactly. So I came down here and I was like, wow, like they're actually outside.
Yeah,
like, they could actually, So that's what started, but I continued to do property management from there. So I was overseeing 3,000 units of housing in North Carolina, Virginia, and Georgia. So I was never really here. Right. I was coming to visit in Fort Lauderdale to unpack my suitcase, and then I was, a couple weeks later, I was off for a couple days. Yeah. So again, back to that thing of like perspective and what's important, right? So I can't, and I had to check myself, like I was doing what I was good at. I was doing what I was experienced in, and it was a great opportunity. But then it really just came down to like, wait a minute, I'm not even. Where do I get my haircut? The simple things.
You need roots.
Like I'm not really getting rooted. I started dating someone. She's now my wife, and I was like,
you're gonna be a dad. You're gonna be a dad.
Gonna
soon.
be a dad, man.
Yeah.
Yes. So in a couple months from now. So So I went to the owner of the company and I said, hey, I love you, man, but this isn't really working for me anymore. I want to fulfill, I want to operate in integrity and kind of, although they can fire you in 5 seconds, I wanted to leave it in a way that was still helpful. So let me give you some time to transition here, but really what I'm looking for isn't to. Don't pay me more money. Don't change my role. It's that simply I want to be more, rooted here in South Florida. And so I said, this was to the owner of Burger Commercial. I said, I think I'd like to transition over to commercial real estate, which is 100% commission. So after he called me crazy, he said, sure, we can do that. So it was kind of this slow bleed out of multifamily operations, which was really my skill set and really my focus.
More steady.
Yeah.
Income wise.
Sure. A lot of very people focused, I think I do well with, teams of people and growing people and developing and things like that. Not to mention the other part of the job, which is, managing the asset.
Sure.
So it was a real transition to say, like, I'm going to go really let that go and go more sort of lone wolf.
Right.
It's not so much a team as much as like, what am I producing?
Yep.
And handing back the paycheck and saying, hey, for a little while, I'm just going to try to figure this out.
Yeah. So let's unpack that a little bit. So did you, in that transition, were you kind of hedging and saving up for, as you transition, you're going to go from steady book of either business or revenue into month or two of dry. So were you preparing for those things, or did you just go like,
no,
screw
yeah,
it,
it
I'm going
wasn't.
for it.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
just
it
doing
wasn't a ripcord. It wasn't a ripcord.
Okay.
Like for me, decisions get made. It's like it starts as a feeling, then it starts as something that what keeps me up at night, and then it's like all I can think about during the day. And I think you're similar
A little bit.
Like I think that's a trait we all share in this family. A lot of it is just like it just kind of gnaws at you, and you just start like, and you'll probably laugh because this is probably similar. Is I'll try to look at it not like every single angle, like good, bad, like not best and worst case,
right?
But like all the in between, and then worse than the worst case.
Yeah, the catastrophizing.
Yeah, I want to know, like, hey, like how bad could this be?
Right.
But to get out of my own head, really, what I started doing, which is something that I've always done, is start talking to people who actually do it. And so, doing it in a way that's like not wasting somebody's time, but sort of just inviting them to share with you a little bit of their experience.
Insight. Yeah.
Hey, Chris, you're in commercial real estate. Can I borrow you for 10 minutes? And I just want to pick your brain real quick. And like, what can I gather in that? Because ultimately they can't make the decision for me anyway.
Sure.
But so that's really where that started. Just kind of picking people's brain, trying not to get caught up in the, success stories.
Right.
Because every sales job,
it's a grind. Yeah.
Every sales job will tell you what the highest guy is making,
right.
and then you see what the highest guy is doing and you're like, all right, maybe. But, there's a few things. Anyway, so that's where for me it was really doing that, and then I go start from that first emotion of like something needs to get. It's like a sifting process, and then it's a piece.
Yeah.
And I pray about it and really just try to, really lean on God on those things, and then also like you eventually have to take that leap of faith,
right?
But be good if you were prepared. So to answer your question, it's like all of those things, and in that time period, you can be preparing.
Sure.
I think it's a great field if you're still living at home and maybe you're out of college and you don't know what you want to do yet or something, but you're really in a stable scenario. I think for me, I had some, I'd prepared some money and some savings that I could manage my. At that time, I still had multifamily properties of my own.
Oh, nice.
That I had an income of, so I had kind of a base. But
sure.
I think also I was single, so I wasn't so much seeking the approval.
Yeah, you were responsible to yourself, really.
Correct. So like, hey, if this is gonna fail, my pain tolerance was gonna be a little bit longer.
Right.
Where now being married and as the leader of the household, it's hard to make those changes it's harder to make those changes because it's like, first of all, you gotta look your wife in the face.
Yeah, it's not just you. Yeah.
Exactly. So then that tolerance for pain can naturally be less. So in this case, I said, this is the time to do it. And I went through that same process to move down to Florida. It was you have to sort of untether the boats, and then you go. You can't just go. You can't go. So, I think that was really it. Was having a backing, and so that way you're starting. I mean, it doesn't matter how much money you have when you're in a commission-based business. You want to be making money.
Yeah, you don't want.
But it wasn't so much that like in week 2, I'm like, man,
right.
We're running out of time.
Definitely. I'm more of the same mind. I had a similar conversation, and my buddy's more all in type personality, and it works for certain people, but I'm kind of the same. So we had a discussion. You kind of brought it back to my forefront. So when you decide to go into commercial, we had been speaking about it. So like commercial, if you decide to go commercial for someone just starting out, you said like, just graduated high school, don't really know what they want to do, right? They theoretically could just jump straight into commercial, right? You don't necessarily need to, cut your teeth and grind your teeth in residential to transition, right? You can it's a separate specialty.
Correct. Right? There's no real, there's not like based on my experience in residential that's now going to help me in commercial and vice versa.
Yeah.
Now there's elements of jobs, like I think I would say that about any job, right? Like there are other fields and other focuses that have that will give you relative experience that you can use. But as far as the technical side of it, I wouldn't say that, just because somebody is, and I would say that, like I said, I say that both ways.
Sure.
I've bought and sold houses on my own, so I would say I am familiar with the process.
Yeah.
But I don't do residential every day.
Yeah.
So in the same way that, a residential person doesn't do commercial every day. So
Yeah.
no, I would say it would be picking your focus. Like I said, if you're coming out of college and, you have some fundamentals and you want to, and I think college is better than high school. Obviously you're more mature. Commercial tends to seem like it's just an older field anyway, but also you have some stability of, if it's at a high school and you're thinking about going away, you're kind of starting to eventually leave, where if you've come back, with that perspective of college, I think it's a good, and I'm just using that as a timeline. You don't necessarily have to go to college.
Right,
to
as
do
well.
it.
But that kind of that age range, when you would be getting
and back
out
to that
college,
point of pain threshold. Like your pain threshold should be greater if you're lucky enough to be in a scenario where you're still living at home.
Yeah.
And like maybe mom's charging you like a couple bucks, maybe she's not.
Right.
She's trying to let you do
support
your thing.
It. That's the one you want to. There is no real pain. Like, what do you lose? A little bit of time,
But it's experience.
It's
experience.
Right.
Like you're going to take something from it.
Yeah.
And what's really great about this business is it's a people business. So, and again, I think any job you take, you're going to meet people, but inherently in real estate, you are meeting people. I mean, you are not doing deals if you're not meeting people and servicing, right? So, so like if nothing else, you leave with experience or exposure. Some people get picked off to do a job completely different based on a relationship that they've
cultivated.
Yeah. So
relationships, building those relationships. That's like, is that kind of a major component of your day to day? Like, are you doing a regimented outreach schedule? Like, is that?
I think yes, and it's also trying to, and I think that was a skill set that I brought, like having dealt with people and trying to help learn and even help them learn what makes them tick, but being responsive, being adaptive, and sometimes just trying to read the room.
Yeah.
And what somebody needs. So, you might not be a, text you every other week, see how things are going kind of person. Like you might be more like, hey, send me a market study every month, or call me next year. Like you really try to balance, I think, what works for them and whatever that looks like to stay in front of them, and then there's people who do want more interaction. And again, I think read the room, but you don't want to disappear. But yes, managing that and then building trust in that relationship where I like to be quick and efficient, especially when I first meet somebody. So if they're looking for something, I always say, like, if you give me a day or two, I want to put something in front of you, and that's really as I'm building out maybe a bigger report or a bigger search for them. But really what I want to learn quickly is just what's your temperature on this, and I can learn a lot about how they see things. And I think that going back to the working world, when you're in charge of making decisions and you have someone you answer to, you become more effective and more efficient when you learn what the person you're reporting to is already looking for, right? Like, so when you're seeing things through their eyes, how do I handle this problem? But here's how I know they would want it handled. Yeah. It just makes it more smooth when the job is done and you can say, hey, and you can kind of gauge how far off you were from what that's how you get independence in a role, right? Yeah. Someone doesn't need to micromanage you when they can trust how you're going to handle it. Right. So I think it's the same way when talking to a new person is like, I want to understand
where they're coming from.
Yeah. Like I want to test your price point. I want to test your geographical needs. I want to understand your size. I want to,
Do you find a lot of like tire kickers, for lack of a better term, kind of just like looky-loos. They're like, yeah, I'm just calling. I want to see.
Yeah. Like, I don't know that. Yeah. I guess I was talking to someone who's maybe a little more actionable than that, but yeah, absolutely. But that's where qualifying is important. Right. So qualifying very quickly, if you ever hear me take a phone call, within the first 10 seconds, I'm asking them a question. They're calling me, asking me something, but
you have
before I answer their question, I'm normally asking them one because I want to qualify them, and that's something that I talk about a lot, that especially if you're working on stuff that maybe, well, really anything, it's important. But also sometimes if something's on the smaller side, there's just not enough meat on that bone to like
justify
spend
the work.
So you don't want to take shortcuts because you still need to do the same level of work, but you need to become like precise and efficient in qualifying. So if you call me on a property and you're like, hey, Jake, I'm calling about this. And, and you might ask me a question. You will get, yeah, absolutely, I can help you with that. I'm asking you a question, right? What kind of business?
That, yeah,
right? Or, hey, this is what I'm looking to invest in property. Here's what I'm going to ask you a question, right? Like I do want to extract from you. I want to hear what is important to you, but yeah, to really qualify, you want to understand, what level of strength are you working with, and that doesn't mean that just because someone's starting out that that it doesn't go somewhere, but you can test kind of the seriousness of it. And back to that point of delivering them something early doesn't mean that that's the max of delivery I'm going to provide them as far as the market report or what's available or whatever.
It's a snapshot at the end.
It's a snapshot, but I learn a lot of things really quickly. How quickly can you digest it to get back to me on it? Right. Because if we find let's say it's on the buying side, we find something. Well, if you sit on that for 3 weeks, the question I need to now find out is it still available?
Yeah. First, yeah. So
also testing how rapid fire they're ready to go.
Yeah. So talking about that, I saw you posted about it. I'm not sure if it was either a closed lease or closed sale, but a pretty substantial deal I saw. Tell me about kind of the deals that you work on a regular basis. I imagine in the current market, how with the current market in play, like how have things changed? How are things kind of looking?
Yeah. So one thing that I like about Burger Commercial being there is that we get to work on leasing and we get to work on sales. Right. So there are some brokerages out there where you only can work on sales. And that's sometimes a hindrance if the market is slower, right? So it's nice to be able to kind of sway between them, but also kind of have some things that are ready to be worked on, on a daily basis. And so for us, a lot of that is in the form of listing property for lease.
For leases, so, nice.
Yeah. So, the fourth quarter of last year, I think I did about $12 million in sales. And then the beginning of this year, things were really quiet and or had really gotten quiet, and in part because of some of the what's the way to say it? Upheaval, if you will, and uncertainty.
There you go.
So you had people talking in the summer, let's see till the election's over.
Sure.
Which is really saying, I just want to
pause.
Like and I don't know what's happening. Uncertainty, right? They don't care normally. They don't care who wins. It's not about political affiliation for them. It's just the uncertainty of what it is. The election comes, and then in January, we get a new president, and there are things that put people back into that uncertainty. Yeah. Tariffs, economy, things like that. So interest rates. So we saw that happen again in January and really the first quarter of this year. So again, leaning back into some of my leasing, we had taken on some new listing assignments there, and what that looks like is you're the landlord and you're my boss on this property, and so now I need to build that relationship. And you need to understand what I'm doing and communicating, and you don't want them to say I haven't heard from you in a while and we haven't done any deals. Because then you have to say but here's what we've been doing. Right.
Yeah, you don't want to play catch up on that.
So in those relationships, it's just staying in communication. Some of that's picking up the phone. Hey, haven't talked to you in a little while. Some of that's shooting him a quick text. Some of that's sending him an email with an update of what's going on, and whatever that needs. That's really where a lot of the focus was the earlier part of this year. And
it's more nurturing nurturing the existing and kind of picking up those.
And also trying to get more. Trying to get more. So there's that balance to where I don't want to only do leasing assignments, and I don't want to only do sales, but really if there's a balance of both. And a balance can be 70-30 sales, 70%. It doesn't
as long as you're hitting your numbers.
A variation of that. I think that's but again, that allows us to service the client better. So if I met you and we were I'm trying to talk to you about selling your property, but your property maybe you're not ready right now, and maybe you realize that your leases are a little bit below market, and if you got them to market rents, you'd be making more money on your sale. The fact that I can lease your property puts me back into play. Now we're building a relationship.
And that's a value add as well. So
exactly.
You can, in certain scenarios, it may be that you can actually help them get more.
Well, that's the whole
on
point.
lease.
Yeah, exactly. So
In
right. That's
addition to
why you
moving
would
it.
be hiring somebody is to be leasing it in a way. Again, the owner of our companies, somebody asked him like, well, what do I need you for? You know, like our family does it, you know, and we saw their rent roll and we can tell their family does it.
Yeah.
And his response was like, you need us because we're not you.
Yeah. We actually know the market. Yeah.
We're a step outside looking at it without any personal, you know, we allow you to deal with the personalities of the tenants. But for us, it's really just saying like, hey, here's what we would advise. And that's balancing retention, reducing vacancy.
Yeah.
And
so you're working with clients that are oftentimes owners of multiple properties, multiple commercial units. So those are, needless to say, like pretty high rollers, right? So what, if you can think of any, when was a time that you had a client or maybe working with a series of clients or a business that you felt like kind of a little in over your head a little bit, and how did you overcome it? How did it get resolved?
Yeah, I think, I guess in theory you could get caught in over your head. I think what I try to do, I try to be prepared. I try to understand, like if we're having a meeting, I just want to help me understand, like what are you talking about? What do you want to know? And I want to try to come prepared. I would say the way against being in over your head is to just be honest and really forthright, but also ask a question if you need to. And so that's another great thing too, is having people that you work with where, I have somebody that I do a lot of deals with, and he's been in the business probably, I think, before I was born. He's been doing this for 30 plus years.
Wow.
And you got to have resources to go, because you haven't seen everything. And even if you've been doing it for 30 years, you're going to see different things. And then you're also dealing with that other layer, which is personality. Yeah. So that can be different on a day-to-day basis with some people. So
I always tell my clients, like, if there's something that I'm not sure, because similar to your space, things shift too. My space moves a little more dynamically in terms of, how every policy is different, for example, like just in that, if there's something that I need to double check, I will let my clients know, like, hey, I need to get back to you on that. I'll look into it, but it's, you never want to kind of shoot off the hip and be wrong, because they'll make decisions same as yours, similar, I'm sure, like they'll make decisions based off of what you're telling them, so you want to give them
back to that point about not taking shortcuts, being efficient and being swift, but not rushing something. And that can be as simple as, if you're asked a question, I don't need to rush to the answer. I can say, I see that that's important. Let me get that
Let me look into that.
Let me look into that. Or just quite simply, hey, what do you think about this? Sometimes that's a question they'll say. And you got to be careful how you answer that sometimes, because I'm here to advise and I'm here to give perspective, but ultimately I want to help you achieve what you want to do, So I think what I try not to do, and this is sort of in getting it over your head, is, and there's people out there who do this, is if I know something's not, I'm not going to say something is that isn't. Yeah. Right. So Chris, this is amazing. You got to do this, man. I mean, you'd be crazy if you didn't.
Yeah. Well, there's implications too, right?
Right.
You can't.
Well, it's a relationship built on trust.
Yeah.
If I did that to you, just on a personal level, if I said like, hey, you got to go try this restaurant. It is the best restaurant. And I'm only telling you that because I'm going to get a $10 gift card and you have it and it's the worst meal of your life. What are you thinking? I'm never gonna, it's like my dad. I'll never like take a movie advice from him. Like, I know, really? I know, I've learned too many times. I know all I think is I'm really happy that you enjoyed it. Yeah. Yeah. But that, 2025 Mel Gibson movie, that's, an hour and 29 minutes.
I think I know which one you're talking about. I think I saw it and it was bad.
So it's that, like, I still want to, but again, you can't be, you can't be like, indifferent about things. Right. But I think that's how I try to avoid getting in over my head, is to just be present and also let them tell you what it is that it's important to them, and try to meet them where you can. But I don't want to overstate something, or that doesn't mean you get it right every time. I mean, I don't care what you're doing. Right. Yeah. You might say something and it be off, but the idea is to try to meet them where they're at. Yeah. And I'm never afraid to pick up a call and ask somebody, have you ever had a situation like this before?
Yeah, I call a lot of other adjusters. I'll call people in my network, depending on what the question is. It can be about really anything. If it's policy or if it's construction related, you have a network. So uh, let me ask you. I know you mentioned you kind of just pivoted, and that's one way of dealing with it, I suppose. But in terms of slow seasons or slower trends, what do you do to kind of stay motivated and stay in the game? Because I know in a sales job, mindset is
I think it's not getting too high, not getting too low. I mean, I know that's obvious, but
I
kind of
just ride it.
I remember when I first started, there was a guy who landed a huge deal. I mean, it was huge.
Yeah,
it was huge, and he was like just back in the office, like nothing happened. And I remember thinking, I'm like, I'm not saying that he should be in the Bahamas, but I'm like, man, like you're not even like you wouldn't even know,
Yeah.
I was like, you're not gonna like. I don't know.
So even a little, maybe he did something.
I don't know.
Right
Pop
before,
some bottles
came right
or
back
something.
in. Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that was my like first
right
question was like, how is he not like? Because I would kill to do anything right now.
Yeah.
At that stage, and I think what I've learned is that whether a deal closes or dies, the experience after is kind of similar. Because if it dies, yeah, it sucks. And then 10 minutes later, it's gone.
Yeah.
If a deal closes, wow, it's awesome. And 10 minutes later, it's gone.
Yeah, like 90.
Right. And I think being commissioned really makes these
true.
Where it's like you have to be just worried about the deals that you're working on. And so, like I said, for me, it's a variety of, representing tenants, representing landlords, representing buyers, representing sellers.
Yeah.
And somewhere in all of those things, it's going to work out. And if for a period of time I'm doing a little bit more of this or a little bit more of that, that's great because it's based on a relationship.
Yeah, man, that touching on that, I feel like that's I thought it was really a me thing, but I guess it's more common. And you hit it on the head. You have the highs and lows regardless of the outcome. In a sense, like you're gonna have a high, then like somewhat of a low, like, oh man, I need to recreate that.
It's a hollow
or
it's
a
hollow.
low. Yeah. And I think a lot of that has to do with goal setting. I've tried to learn to balance being aspirational but also content.
Mm-hmm.
You want to have that balance. I don't know that I reach that all the time, but that being in a sales job, that you have to really learn to balance that as well. In addition to that, on my side, that closed sale, you close the client, let's say on the service, you have a whole, and similar to real estate as well. I really do like the interplay of the two businesses.
Yeah, right. Like just because we go under contract for something.
Yeah, that's a whole nother.
We go under contract. Like there's still a due diligence period. There's still other caveats.
Deal can fall apart. When is? Give me like a horror story of a of like so close and then it just went kaput or something like that.
Yeah, so I do think that's something I've done well at, which is like I really don't try to count my chickens before. I think one thing that a piece of advice that somebody gave early on was like, don't spend your commission before you have it.
Very true.
And so really taking those moments of like, again, we're under contract. Same thing, whether I'm representing the buyer or I'm on the seller side, great, we're under contract. But then again, you move on and do your other.
You're not waiting on that.
Do something else. Yeah. You don't say like, man, let's do the math here. I mean, you kind of know the math. It's hard not to like, but you're not like doing a spreadsheet. You haven't updated your budget, your family budget yet. So, I mean, we had a small piece of land for sale last year, and and it was under contract. They were very communicative through the due diligence process. They were asking for a lot of documents. There was everything's going well, everything's great, and we're hearing it all the time. And then the afternoon of the last day, they sent notice that they were killing the deal. So the thing that's frustrating is that you lost that time because there's only so much you can do to tee up things behind it, right? You don't want to waste people's time, but you also want to kind of know who to call in case things go. But it's not like you can like have another deal like the papers practically.
There's going to be at least a week or two recovery.
You're still sort of starting over. But in that situation, it was really interesting though. I did have somebody who we had stayed in contact with, and the next day we had it under contract.
Yeah.
Oh
so, yeah, that's great.
And then I think we closed in like, less than 30 days. Like it was,
that's the best. So
it like kind of made up for, and the price went up. I mean, everything, it was great.
What ended up working out?
Yeah. And then I ended up doing a lot of deals with him after that. We, again, because we had that good rapport.
Yeah.
I represented him on the buying side, after that on some pretty decent deals. So again, it was like all because I stayed in front of him.
Right.
But it wasn't to so much tell him anything about the deal that was already under contract, but hey, I know you're interested in this. So what are some other things that you're looking for? Just try to get to know, hey, can we get lunch next week?
Yeah.
And so by the time this deal fell apart, I just talked to him that morning.
Right.
Hey, guess what? Good news.
Yeah.
I already was under contract with him on another property.
Right.
So again, it's almost like you can't, I think the answer is like, you can't stop. You can't stop when you think the deal's done. You can't stop. Like there's no,
it never ends. It never ends.
When I get really hyper focused on, I have these deals here that are closing and I need to get this done. I need to get this. And all I'm so hyper focused, you will still have that same feeling when they're done.
Yeah.
You're like, wait a minute, I wasn't looking for the other.
And then the pipeline's dried up.
Right. So it's still always balancing, whether it's a couple deals or a lot of deals. You still have to also be shifting over to your other tab.
New prospecting.
What are we doing?
So tell me a little bit about that. What is your day? And walk me through, because I recently got my license, right? So I'm also asking selfishly, but in general, for up and coming real estate agents that just got their license, what does your day-to-day look like now compared to how it may have looked or how you thought it was supposed to look when you first started?
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about what that should be.
I think getting just again back to being more efficient, and I think I have. So I'm a former baseball guy, and even if you're a golfer, you swing enough, and then you start realizing when your swing's like a little bit off, and you have to readjust. But you start feeling it, and I think that's where I'm at now. Where when I first started, I was just doing stuff, assuming it's what I was supposed to be doing. And there's things
busy work maybe, or
right. There's things that like if I saw you doing that now, I'd be like, Chris, man, like some of that's great. Some of this is also, there's just perspective because you're so head first that something's got to come out of this, and really trying to be more balanced on, okay, I can't just prospect. I also have to how do I also gain market knowledge, and how do I also, who have I set lunch up with this week? And so for me, it was trying to control things that I could control. That's calling. I was calling other people who are doing well and saying, hey, can we grab coffee? Hey, I don't drink coffee, by the way. So every time
you don't drink coffee,
I always get caught. I'm always like, can I get but I got
water,
you.
like
but it's less weird than a lunch, So, but that's what I was doing a lot when I first started, and that's really helped me. And some of those people are still resources now, and really trying to, what's the never eat lunch alone or never eat alone, the principle of that is always be in front of someone, which I'm not perfect at, but I think scheduling time for that, for me now, it's probably not as much as it should be, but even if it's once or twice a month, just to talk to someone I haven't talked to in a while.
So you're focusing on building that kind of business to business.
Well, there's that, but it depends what I'm trying to do. So on the prospecting side, it used to be more scattershot. I would just pick some random areas and I would just call places and call people, and I couldn't tell you where it was or what. I was just very scattershot.
Yeah.
Now it's a little bit more pointed, and I use it. I go in the areas where I've already done business. It doesn't mean I won't go to new areas, but I've learned that I can be more effective in my calls when I have something to say.
Right. I just recently closed a deal on this place.
I'm in the neighborhood. And then they say, oh, well, we love it here, but the traffic ever since the thing is being built. I'm like, oh, yeah, I just drove there. There's like a relative conversation, right? Versus the just straight, cold saying the same script every time and hoping they haven't heard it before, but they probably have. But when I speak, there's a deal that we had under contract and we closed it, and I closed it. And the woman on the owner, she said that she's like, I'm only talking to you because of who you are representing based on how you've described them.
Yeah.
Right. She said, this sounds like this is going to be pretty straightforward process, and that's the kind of person I want to work with, right? So that call that I made to her was, I want to talk about your property. We want to buy it. And this is who I'm representing, not so much by name, but just in terms of like, this is the way he does deal. They're serious. It's not, if we did have someone, would you maybe? And it's like, I don't have time for that. She said she would get 10 calls a day.
Just like that. Yeah.
So I like to be as qualified as possible, but sometimes you gotta just pick up and do random stuff and see what sticks.
So how does that call look like, when you're, let's say, just starting out? So you don't have, I know I've heard, I guess before we go into that, I've heard we're kind of shifting on the residential side into a buyer's market. Have you heard something similar? So, okay, in a buyer's market, when you're targeting, a given area, but you don't have any buyer nor seller, you're kind of just breaking in. What does that call look like?
I would say a little bit different on the commercial side is we do have institutional relationships, not just high net worth individuals. We do have a larger office. So if I said to you, I think I can bring you an offer, I'm also looking at your property differently than I would have looked at when I first got there, or I'm asking better qualifying questions. Yeah. And so my ability to be able to say, hey, does someone have a buyer for this? I think this is I mean, there's deals like that happen all the time.
Yeah.
In the case that you're talking about, I think it's really more about trying to get a listing. So getting a listing, I would say the obstacle to overcome with a listing is, well, I don't want to list my property, but if you bring me a buyer, I'll sell it. If that's
like the worst thing you can hear.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, of course I would. But it's really trying to overcome that.
Yeah.
And getting into, well, here's the value that I would create by being here. It does help if you have, but you know what? I didn't have anything to brag about when I called people. I would be talking about, well, hey, Burger Commercial, we've been in business for over 30 years, and there's a lot of experience here, a lot of relationships. So you can still lean on who's holding your license.
Yeah, right.
And even if it's if you're working with someone to substantiate yourself, is to also say, my colleague and I would love to come, because now it's like, oh, there's like a team.
Team element.
But I would say sometimes people, that is the hardest part to get a listing, is because they're saying, well, bring me somebody and I'll list it.
Yeah.
And I think those are the kind of people that you need to stay in front of. You just need to stay in front of. And maybe it's not today, but that's the person you're sending.
Top of mind.
You do a deal, and then you send them that deal. And then, you know what? I think he can add some value, right?
You know what I've noticed, and I don't know if this is intentional or just due to lack of time or what have you, and I only follow you, but are you guys very loud on social, or and for your part, you post here and there, but I notice...
I would say commercial real estate tends to be quieter than residential. And I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but residential, I think, is like a little more gimmicky, but that's cool. I mean, some of the videos that come out, I saw one the other day where the guy like superimposed, it was like the drone was zooming in, and then he was like flying, and he like landed on the roof. So then as the drone goes in the house, I was like, all right, that's cool. If I ever did that on a warehouse,
it wouldn't work.
No, that's not the person. Different. Now again, it's about eyeballs, and it's about things like that.
And what's so funny about that? At the end of the day, like it is two separate markets in a sense, and like your different, your interactions and the way you interact with them will be different. But it's funny because they're like, it just really depends on the mindset that they're in, because it could be a business owner that's looking to purchase a commercial property who's going to respond differently in that mindset. But they also are probably looking at selling or possibly buying their multi-million-dollar home from that mindset, like, oh, that's very sexy. I like that. So it's a psychology of like how you speak to them. Yeah. So, but notwithstanding that, you guys don't post too much. Like, what are your marketing channels?
So Burger does, right? Okay. I know, like, what I do personally is I try to promote deals that I'm working on. For a while, I was putting out my own videos, and I've backed off that a little bit. I've been posting more like deals that I have going on. The answer is with posting, you can always post more,
right?
Right?
Yeah, so, I'm trying, man. So this is about
exactly, and I think that's huge, man. I think that's awesome, and so I think that's like the difference. But also, who are you talking to, right? Like so if I'm posting on LinkedIn, which I do.
Yeah.
But a lot of that, if I don't expand my network, a lot of that is just people who are already in the industry.
Yeah.
So all that really does is when I run into you at a thing, you say, "Hey, Jake, I saw you. You're doing okay."
Yeah, I know about you. Yeah.
You know, so there's some B2B there that's helpful, but it's also really trying to get. That's another way to stay in front of somebody, right? You make the LinkedIn connection, and I do that a lot of times, even while I'm on the phone, you know, and they're talking, you know, just like I might send the connection right there, right?
Yeah.
Just to like, hey, we're here. Not everybody does that, but it sets me apart, and then it lets me stay in front of them. So again, they see you doing deals, or they see you post something, and they say, hey, like would you be able to do that on my property? What does that look like? So social media for me, you know, it depends what your audience is.
Yeah.
For me, it's more even when I started it, my real intention was if I met you off the street and you go look me up, I want you to have something to see that
point. Yeah.
this guy does stuff.
Right.
You know, taking it to that next level of where I'm Gary V.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But, you know, and like I said, really just being intentional about putting it out there. What
right.
you're doing.
And the consistency.
Relevancy. That's really what we're fighting for. Right.
Right. Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about your process in terms of no, let's pivot. I want to know what your kind of long-term plans is this kind of what you see yourself doing? Is this more of a career path that you hold on to, but you want to nurture that into something else? Like
Sure.
what's the game plan you think over the next 10, 15 years, let's say?
Well, I think it's to continue from the trajectory that I've started on, right? So I started this about 3.5 years ago with nothing to suddenly to where I've, you know, exceeded my income that I left behind,
nice,
like a crazy person, and really just trying to see that grow and really continue to meet new people, do new business, work on different projects. I think what I would want 10 years from now is to, again, have this trajectory continue. Stability is always important. I don't care.
Do you see yourself investing in property again?
And that's where I would say where I would take it is get it to a point to where then I'm also seeing these properties, but also looking at it as an investor myself, and either having a network of people because I'm working with them to joint venture in with, or to do some own, maybe start small as well. And I've done that, you know, previously when I was living in New York, bought some multifamily. So I think that's something that I would like to transition into, but it doesn't necessarily change my day-to-day of what I'm doing now. So I would want to do this as long as I can.
So you would say that commercial real estate in particular, you don't see yourself like dipping back or going into, to begin with, residential. Like you love commercial.
No,
you wouldn't switch.
No.
It's better. Why is that, do you think? Is it more just like a preference, or?
Yeah, I think I prefer it. I think I just prefer what I'm working on, and you know, and I don't know how to say it without making residential sound bad, but it's not. I mean, I think it's really cool. I mean, it is. There are some things that people get to.
Well, I wonder why it is though. Why do you, is it a little bit easier in residential because so many agents flock to that special? Is it kind of just the easiest to jump into? Like,
I think because you can start with, so if you were starting a commercial or starting in residential tomorrow, and I handed you a phone and I said, please call 10 people you know and tell them what you're doing. Most of the people you would call probably couldn't care less if you started in commercial, but if you were in residential, everyone
could be overlap.
Everyone either has a home, wants a home,
right,
or know someone.
Right. Okay,
so
it's a little bit
I think you're
easier.
starting off with something that people already understand. But,
right.
I mean, if you know, my wife works for a law firm, right? But she is not the owner of that law firm. So when we were dating, if I said, "Hey, I'm starting. You want some help doing commercial?" She's like, "But everyone wants help. You can even do, you know, you can do apartments leases, you know, right?" So I think it's an easier step of entry. I'm not saying to success, but as far as like from day one,
you can break into it a little.
Walk
more.
Out of your house and go knock on the neighbor's door, and you're a realtor.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
I think that's what's different. And I think that's also where Burger Commercial is important, because there's a lot of long-term relationships built, very grassroots, very Fort Lauderdale, Broward, just relationships that you really have connections to, that from all types of industry, warehouses to offices to retail, medical spaces, right? So all of these different things that And all of those people have homes.
Right.
All
So
those
you can
people
always
need homes,
parlay that. Jake, let me ask you, this hour flew by.
Yeah.
We're coming out to the end here. Thank you so much for coming in. I wanted to ask you one final question here, for perspective's sake. Going back to the question, 10 years from now, 10 years from now, your baby will be 10 years old, right? So if you can, right, I'll be 10 years older. I'll be, yeah. I was, it's so funny. Man. Someone asked me just came up how old my sister was.
Yeah.
And she's turning, shout out Steph. She's turning 36. And I was like, did that. I'm like, oh my God, my sister's gonna be 36.
The calculator came out. Yeah.
So 10 years from now, what would you, if you could speak to yourself now, what do you think future you would pass on? You know, what wisdom would you try and pull from the future 10 years from now?
Well, I think it'd be easier to say what I would today say to 10 year ago Jake.
There you go. Let's go with that.
I'm going to say that because I think it'll still apply.
Easier.
I think it's to keep going. Don't be afraid to take risks. Trust in God. Take care of those people that are close to you, and keep what's important. Keep it at the top of the list. And I think staying focused on what your priorities are. I think that's something we got to hold on to, no matter how old we are.
Well said. I love it. Jake, tell us what you've got going on, any deals, anything that you're looking for, any people that you're looking to connect with, and how they can find you.
Sure.
Speak to this camera, I guess. Ronar, you speak to that camera.
All right. Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram. You can find me on LinkedIn, Jake Michels, Commercial Real Estate, Burger Commercial. We're located in downtown Fort Lauderdale. And I work on really anything from industrial to office to retail. And happy to help with leasing, investments. Give us a call.
My man. Yeah. Jake, thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you.